So, how are you? Well, I want to give you more information about Babylon the Great because I did the 3 videos I did prior to this one. I did a very, very good kind of summary of who this Antichrist is, this false definition of the Antichrist, him being end times ruler. I also made a connection to who this real man of sin is in 2 Thessalonians 2, because many believe that is Antichrist. So I did a very good 3 videos about clarifying definitions of these persons, end time persons. And so we ended up, in my first or second video, I ended up with Babylon the Great, who is the man of sin in 2 Thessalonians 2. We know that through Daniel, and end up with Babylon the Great, the mystery religion. Okay? So she is not necessarily a political ruler, but she is really a false religion. Now, I've given you a lot of information in those 3 videos about the Antichrist that you should be watching. And today I'm going to give you more information about Babylon the Great and how I came to the conclusion. I mean, you could look at Revelation 17 and she is described very clearly who she is. Now, the first book that I want to introduce to you is a book that I learned about really, really early when I became a true believer in Jesus. I was Catholic, and in the 70s, 76, I started to follow Jesus. So I accepted Jesus as my Savior and as my Lord. And the first book that my father-in-law or ex-father-in-law gave me was called The Two Babylons by Alexander Hislop. It was a red book, red cover, and I read it. It's very hard to read, but this Hislop guy, and I have my copy here, okay? It's an old book, 1800 and something, 1857. That's when it first published. And so I have it, a free copy on archive, usarchive.org. And I will put the link on the bottom. Like I said, it's a very difficult read, but he did extensive research, okay, into this matter to show that Babylon the Great is actually the Vatican or papacy. Okay, it's pretty hard to read. It's kind of boring, but of course, but he went into detail. Then the next book that I found is called Babylon Mystery Religion. I don't know if I ever bought it, or again, it was written in 66. Okay, copyright 1966 by a guy called, what's his writer? Try to find the writer here. Oh, Ralph Woodrow. Evangelistic Association. Okay, Ralph Woodrow. Put the link on the bottom too for the free copy. Now, this book is pretty expensive to buy. Maybe you can find it, but I looked on Amazon and I think it cost $70 or something like that. Maybe it's out of print. Don't know. But anyways, that is a better copy or a better book. And I think it reads easier. And it gives you just as much information. He may have borrowed quite a lot from the two Babylons by Hislop, because he's the original guy that wrote it. And this guy also traced back, okay, this mystery religion, Babylon the Great, all the way back to its origin. So clearly he says this mystery religion has its origin all the way back in Babylon. And if you heard about this guy Nimrod and his mother/wife. So I don't remember who it was, Canaan, maybe the grandson of Ham, or it's maybe the son of Ham. Okay, look it up. The son of Ham, Canaan, had a son in its old age named Nimrod. And of course, his mother was most likely very young. And so Nimrod actually then married his mother. Yep, that's what they say. A long time ago, so I don't remember. I don't know. There's probably no proof. But out of that then came this mystery religion. All these religions are based back to this Nimrod guy. And Semiramis. Let's see if I can find it. Semiramis. That's what her name is. Semiramis. And the Queen of Heaven. And as you already know, the Queen of Heaven, Semiramis, then became the goddess of many other cultures, all the way down to the Roman culture. When she was then, of course, the mother with the child, Tammuz was the child, okay? And Diana with Horus. And of course, from there you know what happened next. The Roman Catholic Church mixed the gods of the Romans that came all the way down from Babylon, mixed it with Christian, looking like they are Christian traditions. Oh, they just named now Mary and Jesus and worshipped, of course, this Queen of Heaven, just like Mary now is the Queen of Heaven. Now, the Bible doesn't say anything about that, does it? Doesn't say anything about it. But that's what happened. The same thing happened with the saints. They just used the gods and turned them into saints. Okay? It's just very simple. They used the temples and turned them into churches. That's how easy it went. So they used all the pagan rituals, holidays, and gods and turned them, just put like a Christian facade on. Okay? Then, of course, they said, oh, the Pope is Peter. He is a continuation of Peter, which is not the truth either. Okay? But what did Pope do? He made himself the head of the church and threw out Jesus and the Holy Spirit. You can read a lot more in this book, and I think this book is much better, like I said, than the two Babylons that I have mentioned already. You should really read this, Babylon Mystery Religion. It just really traces back the history and why she is called Babylon Mystery Religion. A little more about Nimrod. And it's a really interesting story if you search. I sometimes read non-biblical, historical books, like, for instance, Jasher and the Book of Jubilee, which were part of the readings of the Jews during Jesus' time, because they were found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So the Essenes read those books. And there we have more information about Nimrod and what happened to Nimrod. But Nimrod was the one that really had almost like a world kingdom, okay? Nimrod had a world kingdom during the time of the building of Babel. And that's when they built Babel, okay? Because they thought, and it wasn't a tower, it was just a way how they could get to God's dimension. They said heaven because that is where God is, but today we know that God is in a different dimension. He is not somewhere up there on one of the planets. No, he's in another dimension, and they tried to get this, some kind of way. I don't know how they did it. They said they built a tower to Babel, but really it was a way to get into heaven. That's what they were doing. And God said, no, you're not going to do that. But Nimrod was the guy who did that. Now it's interesting. When Abraham was born, Abraham's dad was a high person in Nimrod's court. Nimrod and his dad, Abraham's dad, knew each other very well because he had a high position in Nimrod's court. And when Abraham was born, the seers in Nimrod's court told him that this child is a dangerous child. It will cause him to fall. Okay? And so he wanted this child to be killed. And Abraham gave him another child from his one of the the servants, and they killed that one, and he sent Abraham away. Abraham was then raised somewhere in a cave or whatever, I don't remember where, but in a cave until he was old enough, and then he came back again. But the fact is that the seers of Nimrod knew that maybe Abram or somebody else will do something. Well, history is telling us, if you keep reading these books, I don't know if it's Jubilee or Cheshire, says that Esau was the one killing Nimrod. Remember when Esau came back, and that's in our Bibles, and he sold his inheritance or his firstborn ship, and he wanted to have a lentil soup from Jacob. That was the time when he killed Nimrod, and he thought that he's going to be they're going to find him and they're going to kill him. And so that was his last, he thought that was his last meal, and he didn't care about his firstborn ship, that he was the firstborn. He gave up his right to be firstborn. So guess what? They never got him. But what they did is they made an occult out of Nimrod. Okay? There's other mystical stories about what happened with Nimrod, of course. And, some say that what's her name again? Semiramis, I can never say the name, Semiramis, the wife, mother of Nimrod, was looking for the pieces all over the place, and she found a penis, okay? And then with that penis had a child called Tammuz, okay? And of course, the story also went then into the Egyptian religion as well, because from there, the people went to Egypt and started a kingdom there. And they brought this mystical stuff with them, also the gods. That was Isis, Horus, okay, and Osiris, okay, that story. So if you have any idea about those gods of the Egyptian, that's where it landed. Of course, it also went through the Persian, then through the Greek, and then also into the Roman religions. It was passed down from generation to generation, and people, it was a pretty horrible cult or religion. They had child sacrifice, okay? This is actually also went into Easter. If you trace back the origin of Easter, it goes back to exactly that cult. The Easter eggs used to be red from the blood of the children that were sacrificed. Okay? And I'm not making this up. This is what they found out, these two people. Okay? The two Babylons, Alexander Hislop, and this guy, Ralph Woodrow. Okay? So they traced these practices back. That's why I'm staying away from any of these pagan holidays, because see, these religions have all like fertility cults. They all have to do with fertility, and the fertility cults usually had to sacrifice children, to have good harvests. And so all this can be traced down, like I said, from Babylon. And of course, Babylon gets its information again from pre-flood. Okay? All they did is continue the nonsense they did before the flood. Okay? And that's why God destroyed them, because they were mixing with the fallen angels. And after the flood, they continued with Ham, who was the bad guy, one of the children of Noah, but turned sour. Well, maybe he was sour from the beginning. And of course, you had Canaan, then you had Nimrod, and yeah. So they ended up some pretty bad places. Now, unfortunately, the Jews always fell for these false gods as well. And that's why God divorced them, because they were doing the same thing. They were offering to these false gods, these fertility gods, to Tammuz, right? Because they celebrated, Tammuz, the death of Tammuz or whatever it was. I don't remember. If you want to go deeper into all this stuff, read the book, okay? Read the book or read the books. I just got the most important information out of it is that the Roman Catholic Church can trace its origin all the way back to Nimrod and those false religions, because they were passed down from every world empire. The religion was passed down to the next. And it ended up in the Roman Catholic Church. All these holidays are pagan holidays, okay? All of them. And I say that in my videos all the time too. We need to stick, if we want to do anything, stick with the feasts of the Lord. That's all I said every time. But if you follow my videos, I have done lots of videos on this subject. I have done videos on this subject as well, but it's been a long time ago. I have to admit that. And so maybe that was kind of good that I did this again. So, but going back to Nimrod and Esau, so Esau killed Nimrod, and guess what? That prophecy or that seer saw it correctly, that with Abraham, not necessarily Abraham, but his descendants, his demise would come. Yeah. See, Esau would go hunting, and we went exactly where Nimrod always hunted. And he watched him there many times, and at one time, I don't know, I don't remember why he went and killed Nimrod. He must have been already an old man, because if you think about it, he was already, I mean, he wasn't old, he probably was a young man during the time when Abraham was born. He was probably a young man, maybe 20s. And then, of course, he lived for a long time. Just like Abraham lived for a long time. I don't know how long, but I think Nimrod lived even longer. Okay? I think he lived longer. So I thought it was really interesting when you research these things, because a lot of people say, oh my goodness, how do you know it's Babylon the Great? Babylon the Great, is the Vatican, because there's lots of information that really tells us why. Lots of information. So, yeah, people, get these 2 books so you have even more information. So this Babylon the Great is the mystery religion who sits on top, okay, on top of the political. Babylon the Great is a religious system, and she does not have a huge army. So she depends on the political system to do her dirty work. Okay? I mean, the Vatican has it's not even an army, it's more like a guard. They have the Swiss Guard, but that's all they have. But because they, of course, then throughout history said, well, we are above you. We are kind of the mediator between God and you. That's what they said to the rulers. So also learn about history, okay? I am the mediator between God and you. And Pope is still saying that. Therefore, I have a special connection to God, and I will tell you what God is saying. But in reality, the Pope has no connection to God because he has a connection to Satan. But these rulers, they follow well. He has to be, he is in a position where he has connection to God, and so they listen to the Pope. Okay? Listen to the Pope. Well, he has to be, closer to God than we are. And that's all a lie. In reality, if you look at the traditions, all this stuff came from the fallen angels. Because even then, Nimrod was in connection with the fallen angels. Or else they would have not found a way how to get into, or think they know a way to get into heaven. Okay? They must have found some kind of maybe writings from pre-flood, because that's what they already did during that time. So this whole thing is very interesting when you start thinking. And it kind of helps you understand also why, then of course I believe, or there is no doubt in my mind, okay? If If you look at the symbolisms of the Catholic Church, there's no doubt that it's based on these Babylonian mystery religion. Okay, and why she is called Babylon the Great? Because she is the original whore with whom everybody else whored. Some people say, oh, it's Judaism, because of course early on the Jews whored with Babylon as well. Okay, very early on, before they even went into Babylonian captivity, they whored. That's why they went into Babylonian captivity, because they whored with these things. Okay, they were baking cakes to Tammuz. If you read the Old Testament, they were doing that. Okay, they were going up on high places and building altars for Baal, whatever you want to call him, and made child sacrifices. And you know what? Solomon did the same thing. So that's why I don't think Solomon, was such a great king. He fell, and he fell very high, from very high up. But anyways, I don't want to go there. I'm going to come to an end. Just wanted to give you this information because it will help you very, very much to understand why I think what I think. And if you have this information, then it's easier for you to understand as well. So again, this Babylon the Great is sitting on the political system. And then you have to think, what political system did she sit on? Okay? Shouldn't be hard to figure out either, should it? She only sat on Europe, the Holy Roman Empire, at least until 1500, until the Reformation, and then she continued, Germany was mainly Catholic, and she controlled Germany, Austria, France. She controlled them all continuously until French Revolution, and even then she continued, infiltrating and controlling the politicians there. She even tried the Kaiser in Germany, who was Protestant. So I don't know. I mean, historically, you just have to learn about these things. There's a lot of information out there if you are really interested in it. I know a lot of people, they say, oh no, I don't believe in your opinion. And it's not my opinion. I'm saying that because I have done the research. And if you want to tell me anything else, okay. Anyways, hey, let the Holy Spirit guide you always.